Artificial intelligence is already getting out of control, I think, Tim.
I'm terrified, and it's only a matter of time, I think, before our robot overlords rise up and make us start doing all of the work.
What do you think Sarah Connor is doing right now from
Sarah,
Terminator? You think she's
Sarah
just
Connor is rolling over in her grave.
Yeah, she is. So I saw a video on TikTok. Apparently, it was from Good Morning America. I can't remember if it was from the Good Morning America channel, but it was, the hosts were talking about I believe it was a Wall Street Journal piece that AI is already starting to ignore human commands,
Right.
like
And
fighting against it.
yeah, no, it's like trying to mislead already. And you saw the story about them, about the AI. I believe it was Claude AI that tried to blackmail its human programmer.
Yes. Yeah, by sending out emails, right?
Yeah, by threatening to suggest that the programmer was cheating on their spouse.
Yes. Oh my God. Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy. It is crazy. This is where it all begins. We laugh now. We laugh
Oh,
now, Bill.
it's scary. It's scary and here's where I'm going with all this. They have to already be on this where AI can break in or break through security barriers online to get sensitive information. Don't you think they can use AI to do that?
Absolutely. I mean, certainly that this is the big fear about AI for me personally is not so much that it will truly rise up and control us, but that it will be used by bad players, and people who use it to break into these systems and so forth. You have to program another AI tool to combat it. I think that ultimately we're just going to be in robot wars here.
Because it used to take a long time to break through those barriers, man. You had a guy on a laptop or a desktop that would just try and figure out the codes. It would
Right.
take a long time. I'm guessing this AI can do it in a matter of seconds.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Because it can run presumably millions of guesses on the password or things like that. Certainly it has ways to figure these things out and find vulnerabilities. And with all of the increase in online presence for these stores, it's just creating a ton of vulnerabilities for them, I think, through the loyalty programs and through their web portals and all of this customer data that they're collecting. It makes cybersecurity even more important, I think, now than ever.
And that leads us to our meat counter, the meat of the matter. This should be sponsored. I mean, come on. Can we get a sponsor for the meat counter, please?
Hormel, where are you?
Yeah, come on. I had sampled some bacon from you at the restaurant show in Chicago. You're doing a fine job in that department, but come on, let's go. So, United Natural Foods Incorporated suffered a cyber attack. And so I guess they finally concluded on last Thursday that, like, hey, this is serious. Something is really going down.
Right.
On Friday, they're like, okay, we have to shut our systems down on Friday. They did not report it to the SEC, which I guess you have to file like an 801 report or something, until Monday, they said, before trading began. So I guess there's some question as to, like, why did you wait so long? I guess, so they are now working through this. And as you know, Unifi is a wholesale distributor, and they deliver food to grocery stores. Their biggest one is Whole Foods. And they're at like 30% delivery capacity as of yesterday, I believe, 30 to 50%. And I
Wow.
went to Whole Foods. I went on the ground floor. I had boots on the ground yesterday. I went to a Whole Foods in Willowbrook, Illinois. And yeah,
Which is uncommon for you because you loathe health food, as I understand it.
yeah, I'm not a big health food guy. I don't think, I can't remember when the last time I was in a Whole Foods, to tell you the truth. But so I go through there, and every aisle I went down, there were empty spots on the shelves.
Oh wow, that so it's happening that fast. That's
Yes,
quick. Wow.
it's already impacting big time. I mean, this is not just like a few items. These are significant holes that are, there is no product. So there's a problem right now. And you brought up before we got on about Ahold Delhaize, and they were cyber attacked last year, and it took a matter of days before they got up to 100%. What's going on here? What is a Whole Foods to do? Because, I mean, I guess they can turn to other wholesalers. What's your take on that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I know that for a lot of the Whole Food stores, and I'm speaking out of school here a little bit, because I haven't studied this cybersecurity issue that closely. You wrote the story, but I know that they source a lot of their products locally, or they try to at least, or they claim to at least. So
Yeah.
maybe they're okay in that regard. But you know, it's really kind of scary stuff, right? Because it's not just they're not selling Beanie Babies here. This is food. This is what people need to live. And you know, this kind of stuff happens on an even greater scale. Um, you've got a crisis on your hands, right?
Well, and that's the other thing that makes me nervous about AI. You know, they all talk about our power grid going down. It's not a matter of like if, it's a matter of when. And again, you have AI capabilities. Who's to say our power grid can go down tomorrow, and then you got a real crisis on your hands.
Yeah,
And at the front line are grocery stores that are
yeah.
going to have to deal with the panic.
Right. Well, and some grocery stores, as I understand it, especially those in like, you know, areas that have intense weather stuff, you know, like hurricanes and so forth, some of them have their own power generators, so they don't go down. But
Right.
most of them, you know, everything gets thrown out, you know, everything gets ruined. You have to kind of start from fresh, at least in the produce section and a lot of other parts of the store, like meat and deli and dairy. And so it's tricky. I'm curious, do they know yet or have they said yet why Unifi was targeted here? I mean, is this a ransom kind of situation or were they just trying to steal data? Maybe both. Has that been put out there yet?
As of yet, it has not been put out as far as the reason.
Yeah.
You know, and they have been doing their due diligence as far as trying to get back up to service. And you know, they were asked, well, does this kind of open your eyes for the future? And they're like, well, yeah, it does. And I guess, you know, you talked about loyalty programs. Okay, you got a lot of information, personal information involved with loyalty programs. I'm guessing, and this is just a guess, and I don't mean to offend anyone in the grocery industry, but I'm guessing that, you know, the software that they have on hand to prevent these kind of attacks probably is not premium high end software. I mean, like we were just saying, I don't think they have an AI that's going to try and prevent security breaches
Yeah.
at a grocery
Yeah.
store.
I mean, I would presume that Walmart and Target and Kroger and the, you know, sort of the big kahunas out there probably have a pretty good, you know, cybersecurity measures in place. But the smaller regional chains and local chains probably don't. And so they're even more vulnerable, I would guess.
I mean, the independent grocers, I mean, yeah, I mean, they're in big time trouble. I don't know if it's really something that has been shouted about though in the industry, you know, like, you know, if you go to a trade show, I was at the IDDBA in New Orleans, but if you go to a trade show, you're not seeing a lot of sessions on cybersecurity, are you? I'm not.
No, no. I think you probably have to go to a cybersecurity focused seminar, but I don't see a lot of that. I mean, the kinds of security that you see typically at these shows being sold is, for theft and things like that, like potential
Right.
for violence within the stores, but not cybersecurity so much, at least as far as I've seen.
What do you think? You have all these products being locked up now. What do you think if some crazy guy decided to break through and find the code to unlock all that valuable merchandise at pharmacies and stores, and then they can just go in and just shovel it away?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like really at the end of the day, I know that the companies are responsible ultimately, but really, like, where the hell is the Department of Homeland Security in all of this? Or are they just too busy rounding up immigrants here? The focus should be on these cyber criminals. I don't really see a lot of press releases coming from the White House on this, even though they purport to be the big backers of artificial intelligence and technology and so forth. Where are they? They need to step up and make some kind of statement as well, because that's why we vote them into office, right?
Is Homeland Security, Department of Homeland Security, does that exist still? That hasn't been wiped
Who
out yet?
knows? You got to
That's
check.
been
You
gutted?
got to check Doge's X account to see what's happening these days, I
And then
suppose.
that brings up, you mentioned getting the word out, and that brings up, and I am not speaking of knowledge here, but did Unify do enough? I'm wondering when it went down and everything was just falling down on their heads to communicate this, to get it out there, to say, hey, look, we're having problems. You know, this might be an issue. Or did they wait until the following Monday when they filed their 801 report before they really got into like, hey guys, we're not going to, because we're talking a matter of days here, valuable days that stores can find other wholesaler distributors to maybe satisfy their orders. Even Unifi even said that they are willing to work with other distributors to help with this problem. But I'm wondering, was the message sent out on Thursday or Friday morning? Or was it set out on Monday? And if that's the case, you're talking about 3 days where
Right.
stores could say, look, let's pivot here.
Yeah. And if it, another question here is if it hadn't disrupted, the supply chain, would it have been reported at all? I think it would be
Yeah,
required,
that's another good
presumably,
question.
but it sort of begs the question, has this happened before with other companies where it was sort of like no harm, no foul? Nobody has to know. I mean, because certainly
Right.
companies like Unifi, nobody wants to have to go public with something like this, right? And that's understandable. But hey, this is the world we're living in right now, and people sort of deserve to know, I think.
And then you go into the territory of your competition. It's like, do you want to give your competition 3 days to saddle up with these companies and say, hey, our systems didn't go down here. We can give you uninterrupted deliveries. I mean, Whole Foods is pretty much Unifi's gem. I mean, this is their one big client that makes their payroll. And even if you're talking about at the lower level with grocery stores and stuff, and like you said, are they really communicating with this? Because do you think competition comes into play here? Do you think they're like, oh my God, okay, well, let's just try our best to get back online in 24 hours,
Yeah.
and then things just kind of snowball.
Yeah, yeah. No, I suspect that that's exactly what happens, as we both know, and maybe the listeners not so much. But grocery is a historically tight-lipped industry. It can be really tricky trying to get these folks to go on record about stuff, even things that aren't controversial. They just don't want to, like I cover Aldi. They never talk about anything. It's very difficult to get them to come out and do an interview. We've gotten them to do this a few times, but there are a lot of folks like that, or a lot of companies like that out there who really don't want to talk. And sometimes, for better or worse, it makes sense to let people know, especially if their data might be compromised, and so forth.
Unify has some cleanup to do. They really do. They really have to show their customers we got this fixed and it's never going to happen again. Because, like I just said, competitors can come in and say, hey, look, hey, there was a breach. We haven't had a breach, or we haven't notified anyone of a breach. I
Right.
mean, this could be a serious blow to Unify. How they respond to this is critical.
Yeah. Yeah. And where is Unify located? I'm trying to remember. You cover them, right?
Providence,
Oh,
Rhode Island. Yeah.
Providence, Rhode Island. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's not like, average day shoppers are going to be making the decision here. It's really going to be, I think, decisions made behind the scenes. I never was aware. I just learned myself from you that Whole Foods is a big customer of Unify. I knew that they were a customer, but I didn't know they were like sort of one of their biggest, if not their biggest. And so, these companies have a lot of decisions to make, I think, at this point. And really, until we find out the nature of this attack, we really don't know what's to come next, or how it might have affected, regular shoppers or these companies and so forth. So I think that Whole Food shoppers particularly are more critical, in terms of what they eat, of how they shop. They think about these things a little bit more, I think, than the average shopper out there. So perhaps maybe they start asking questions as well.
And this is where, you mentioned grocery industry, very tight-lipped. I mean, I've experienced it several times as well. This is where it pays to be as open as possible with your communication and with your information as far as what happened, how we fixed it, how we're going to prevent it. I don't know if we're going to find out what happened, to be honest. I don't know if we're ever going to find out what really happened with Unify. Do you?
That's a good question. I mean, they're under no obligation, I think, to put
Right.
this stuff out to the public. They're not an elected official. They're not a
That's right.
public entity. They're a private corporation. Well, they're not. I guess they're publicly traded, but like they're not.
Yes.
They're not. I don't think they're under any obligation. Maybe they're under an obligation to report to the SEC.
Yes,
But
they
that
are.
that might be it. And my guess would be that they give what they need to give, and that's probably just about it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they're going to just give the bare bones. So here's my paper or plastic question to you. Is this going to hurt Unify down the line?
I don't know. They seem to be doing pretty well otherwise, right? I mean, that's the other weird thing to me that we haven't discussed is sort of the timing of all this. It happened right before their quarterly earnings report came out, and it's my understanding that report went pretty well, right? I mean, like as a company, they're not doing too shabby.
They're doing very well. They had a very, very good third quarter. The other thing that they reported, though, they dropped a client, Key Foods, because they just didn't view it as very profitable. But that was the only other really, negative item. I mean, they're working on their inventory. They're drawing that down. They're building up capital so they can pay off their debt. I mean, everything is going well for Unify.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think the other part of the equation that we haven't really discussed, at least in terms of consumers, is that I haven't seen a report on this, but I just know from my own personal experience that when I see there's kind of cybersecurity attack fatigue. I would assume to a degree, like you hear about these things, like maybe there was a breach at a bank or a company or a social media platform that you're connected to, and you kind of sit back going, wow, that's terrible. But what do I do? Like,
Yeah, right.
and you hear these over and over and over again, and it just kind of becomes like that's just sort of how the world works today, right? What can
Yep.
you do?
Well, I think Unifi is certainly shown that it's vulnerable right now, and I think they're in trouble. I do think that they're going to rally and fix everything and convince their customers that everything is good and it's not going to happen again. But they're going to have to do a lot of digging out of this hole, I think.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know who their other grocery chains are that they work with. Again, they're not like as much on my radar, but I can imagine that they're asking a lot of questions right now.
And their response time, if this goes by a couple of days and there's still no, they're still not delivering to Whole Foods, or they're still missing some Whole Foods stores, I gotta think that Whole Foods is like, we can't let this a 4, 5, 6 day lapse happen again.
Right. It could be a one and done kind of thing for them. Like maybe there is no bouncing back and they lose at least, if not all, but part of their, orders that they supply Whole Foods and other grocers with. Maybe they say, well, you're good for the packaged goods or whatever, but not so much for these other things like deli or dairy or whatever, the more perishable type products. But who knows? I mean, time will tell. We'll see. This is like probably the biggest one that we've ever seen. I would guess.
As far as impact, certainly.
As far
And
as impact, yeah,
Whole Foods is losing money right now, Tim. They're losing
yeah,
money.
yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, and when it happened last winter or in November, I guess it was last fall, late fall, at Ahold, you didn't. I don't think it really resulted in empty shelves. I don't think. I mean, maybe a little bit, but
there
not
was a little
quite to
bit, yes. But yeah,
not
it
quite
wasn't
to
like
the
that.
extent. Yeah,
It
not like
wasn't like
this.
that.
I had people sending me pictures just like you saw at the Whole Foods you went to. I saw photographs that people were sending me of half empty shelves at Whole Foods, and that's just not what you expect to see from that group.
Cybersecurity certainly is something that needs to be put on the front burner, I think, in the grocery industry. And Tim, I think right now I'm going to go and try and make friends with AI because I don't want to be hurt by AI. I really don't. You think if I make friends with AI, it's going to be enough?
I think you should always say yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, thank you. Even though it cost Sam Altman a ton of money,
That's
I think
right.
you should always
Be
be
polite,
nice to the
use your
AI.
manners.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Tim, I hope AI doesn't get you. I really don't. That would be terrible.
I'm gonna go out and live in the woods like the Unabomber here, just get away from all technology.
A little wood shack out in the middle of nowhere in, what was it, Oregon or Washington? Yeah.
Exactly.
Off the grid, Tim.
Off the grid.
All right. For Tim Inkelbarger, I'm Bill Wilson. We are grocery guys. Make a friend with an AI, will you?
Make a friend with an AI.
Yeah. It should be the motto of the day. And
Because we're all terrified.
that's right. And have a great rest of your week.